What's going on, guys? Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Affluent Adolescents. I'm your host, Anthony Ortiz.
I'm your co-host, Jason Murillo.
And introducing our guest today. So he is a first-generation entrepreneur, real estate investor, and real estate owner. He is the CEO and founder of Sayan Renovations and Construction, one of the largest multifamily renovations and construction companies in the state of Texas. And he also happens to be related to a host of one of the greatest podcasts of 2022, which you guys are listening to right now, Ruben Ortiz.
Oh, thank you guys. Appreciate you guys having me on. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Love the setup.
Yeah.
And it's an honor to be on y'all's podcast. And this is awesome.
Let's do it.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming on, dude, and giving us your time.
Yeah. So, I mean, to begin with, I think what I'm most interested in is how, construction was right out of high school.
No, man. Not right out of high school. I grew up in construction, as a Hispanic family, son of Mexican immigrants.
Right.
And, our parents immigrated over here in the early 90s with myself and my sister. Anthony wasn't in the picture at the time. But, coming over from Mexico, the job opportunities or what my dad got into was construction. So, being part of that, I kind of grew up in that industry.
So then this was early on.
I had experience early on, very
Right.
early on. I had experience just because I'm sure as others, my dad would take me to work with him on the summers, and I got a little bit of that experience at an early age. So I grew up in it, and no, I didn't do it right out of high school.
No.
I tried the whole college thing.
Yeah.
It didn't work out for me. Just wasn't for me. So no, not right out of high school.
So what was your first steps into, besides working with dad and having that labor part of it? Mm-hmm. What was your first steps into the business aspect of construction?
So my first step was, and it wasn't so much a single thing that made me decide, okay, I'm going into the actual business of construction. I had to go through several different things. I had to get that experience of actually doing the labor. And as I was going through it, you're doing it, and me personally, I didn't like doing it. And as I was in it, I didn't realize how valuable that aspect is now.
Right.
Because it allows me to put myself in the subcontractor situation.
Right.
And it allows me to understand exactly what goes into a large project from the material aspect, from the labor aspect. So it was a multiple series of things. So, experiencing the labor part, and then getting hired and working as a project manager for a large renovation company, and then realizing from there that, hey, I can do this. I can do this on my own.
Yeah, 100%.
And at that point, taking the risk and not staying comfortable and saying, you know what, well, screw it. I'm gonna take that leap of faith and start it on my own. So, I did, and then, from there it took a few, I guess, adversities and going through, not having anything,
right.
and all that stuff, and then ultimately realizing that, hey, I need to dive all in,
right.
and really, if I really want to be a true business owner, understand what that looks like, set a game plan, set some goals, and get after it and commit 100%. And I think that's what kind of in 2014 really, I committed to diving in wholeheartedly and looking into what it takes to run a business, learning about the business aspect. Because, I didn't learn it in college. We didn't learn it in high school. all that stuff. So a lot of it, it's just self-education,
Right.
and having the drive and setting those
100%.
goals.
Yeah.
Yep.
To go back real quick before we enter this next subject. To go back to the education, college. Going into college, what did you want to? What was the move there? What was the?
What was
Like what
my
were you
career
majoring
path?
in? Yeah. What was
So,
that looking like?
I mean, right out of high school, I think I took like a semester break or whatever.
Right.
And didn't want to go right into
Right.
it. And then I did community college, but it wasn't so much. I didn't really have a clear path.
Right.
Not at all. I think, which is why I think this podcast is so great. You're creating a platform for those, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds who don't necessarily have a clear path to what they want to do or what their long-term goals look like.
100%.
And I think it's super valuable. So no, I had no idea. I knew that, I'd always tell myself, hey, I want to be an architect. And then it would change. And then, hey, I want to be, I want to master in business. And then that would change. But there was just something about, for me, having to go to class and sit there in subjects that I had zero interest in. And that's not how I learn. I mean, I'm very, active, hands-on. I really have to be interested in something to really sit there and and pay attention.
Your effort, yeah.
And put my effort into it.
So
no clear path, business, architecture, stuff like that. Yeah. And that was it. And then eventually it just, led to, hey, I need to try something else. Yeah.
Do you think those experiences in college helped you out in any form on where you are right now?
Look, to be honest, I'm sure at a certain level they do or did, but obviously, you got to learn your math and all that stuff.
Yeah,
right?
No, 100%.
And how to structure,
right?
Because we communicate a lot through emails and all that stuff. So you want to learn all those things. Those are very valuable skills. But I mean, not that I'm applying on a daily basis, out here in the real world. Unless obviously you're going to school to be, again, an architect, doctor, in the medical field, all those things, but not for me.
100%.
Yeah. And talk to us about the early days of your business, because the reason we want to have you on and the thing that we think is so valuable about you is your experiences. I feel like you can apply it to any other business. Like what are some things that you struggled with that other business owners may struggle with, or someone that's looking into starting a business can expect to struggle in? Sure.
So, guys, I think, so I started, I had the vision, right, of always being a business owner, in some form or facet. And in 2014, when I started Sayan, I started, almost, it was a dream, right? Like I had no savings, which you probably don't want to do, right? You want to have some
situation,
sort of, and no savings. So everything that I had, I threw into the business. And, I started Sayan, and at the same time, I was also doing subcontract work.
Right.
So I was out there, again, getting small contracts and doing labor and stuff like that. And at the same time, whatever I would take, I would put into Sayan. And not just taking that money and spending it recklessly, without a plan, without a goal. The goal was to do this so I can feed this and eventually grow.
Right.
Sayan. And the struggle, and it's a struggle at the same time. It's a learning experience, because you go through, hey, okay, if I don't make certain calls, if I'm not knocking on doors, the phone's not going to ring.
Right.
No one's going to, just out of thin air, is going to call you, hey, I've got this, $2 million project, come do it for us. Yeah. Like you have to do the legwork. You have to, again, self-education. I mean, if you're not going to school for it or anything like that, for me it was reading books on, hey, how to run a construction company and
Right.
stuff like that. And when you get it, or when you're going through some of that stuff, you're like, man, is this book really going to help me?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, man, but you do. I mean, a lot of these people are experienced construction business owners, and you take away tidbits from, a certain book, or not even books related to construction, just business in general. And, again, overcoming the ups and downs of starting a new business where you have no money, and, it's really easy to say, screw this. This is too hard. Like, I can't do this. At the first sign of, a struggle, a difficult moment, I think it's very easy, and it's almost natural for us to say, no, this isn't for me. Like, I'm going to go try something else.
Yeah.
And the big difference, and that made me realize is, and I kind of have always been like this, is no matter how hard something gets, I'm always going to figure out a way.
Right.
Like, I'm not just going to chalk it up
Right.
and move on. So you got to stick to it, ups and downs, because you learn so much through those adversities. And I think that's what really kind of, will kind of determine, it's just my opinion, will kind of determine, the success you can achieve, is how long you can stay, motivated,
Right.
Through those pain points.
100%.
And during those times, what were you doing to kind of, what was your why to grow the business? Was it something like showing yourself that you can do it? Was it, you wanted to reach a certain amount of value, like net worth,
Family.
or what was it for you?
I think it's a few things. It's always been, my why has always been, I've always wanted to prove to myself that, this little kid from, who was brought over here from Mexico, born in Mexico, came over here with, family having absolutely nothing, to show myself, and not only myself, but hopefully that through some of my achievements and accomplishments, I can motivate other, Hispanic,
Right. First generation
immigrant kids, and then show them that, hey, if this little guy did it, like literally
Right.
anyone can do it.
100%.
So that's always been a motivation of mine. Again, it also goes back to family, right? From Hispanic culture, family's huge, very tight knit, and it's showing also kind of a tribute and honoring my parents and saying, your sacrifice isn't going to go unanswered. I guess, right?
Right.
You guys made a huge
Unfulfilled.
sacrifice for
Right.
us, and it's a way of me showing you that, hey, I'm putting it to work.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
I think, and again, I've got a 3-year-old little daughter now. I've got a beautiful wife, and they just added that all kind of added fuel to my fire. And yeah, and just seeing, how far we can take this. I read, I one of the guys that I read a lot of books about, and his books is Jim Rohn, and one of the things he says is, hey, how far can you go? As far as you want.
Right.
I mean, there's no limit. So I'm big on that, and just seeing how far we can really take this.
It's exciting. That's an exciting thought, and how far you can go and what you're able to accomplish.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I feel like once you comprehend that and you truly understand that, like, you're physically capable of anything you set your mind to, and
Absolutely. You're physically, mentally capable of anything you set your mind to. It's just, it's such a subtle, people, I think we as humans, we try to overcomplicate certain things.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to making a subtle mind shift.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it is. I mean, it's
100%.
just changing your mindset. Sometimes that's just a few words, and it's it doesn't have to be overly complicated, and and not only changing your mindset, right, but it also comes with changing certain habits that we don't realize we have or do. So there's a lot of self-reflection, and especially when you're going through difficult times, like, not knowing where you're going to be in 2 years, well, and going back to being 19, 20, not knowing what that career path is going to be, and acknowledging that, hey, a lot of those answers are within you.
And the great thing that you said about that is overcomplicating, because I completely agree. I feel like a lot of people try to overcomplicate things. I see, these challenges on social media, like, the 75 hard challenge, and people try to make an abrupt change too fast, and that's what causes them to lose motivation very quickly.
Right.
Because they're like, okay, well, I have all these bad habits. I'm just going to completely throw everything away, and I'm just going to commit to doing the hardest thing I can possibly 100%. Do. When that's always not the answer. Like you said, subtle changes. And the thing that stands out to me is when I was younger, he always, you've always been big on, teaching me, wanting me to be better. Mm-hmm. You've always been a big role model for me. And the thing that, he always said was, that stood out to me the most, is take away any negative talk.
Right.
Whether it be, I know sometimes we tend to slip up on something, just like, oh, Anthony, you're dumb. Like, what are you doing? Eliminate that. Catch yourself doing that and eliminate it. And in the smallest task, and that tends to snowball. And in my case, now I can do something and I make a mistake, and I'm like, okay, you made a mistake, acknowledge it, but it's okay. Like, you can do this. 100%. And it just, picking myself up in those moments has really helped me.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's a compounding effect, and people, and I like to talk about all this stuff, and positive talk, and as as cliche as it may sound and stuff like that, but just being positive, having that positive mindset. For me, life, my thought is life is already, hard.
And there's so many like negative external.
So much negative, external, information that's coming in
100%.
And stuff. And sometimes people are like, "Hey, man, like you're sometimes you're too positive, too positive." Like, sometimes it's bad things happen. Well, yeah, you're right. Like, bad things happen all the time. Bad things happen to good people all the time. Bad things happen to bad people. Whatever. There's bad in this world, right? But why would I want to just go through this life or through this in a negative way? Like, I'd rather just look at it in a positive way, and I acknowledge that there's stuff out there, but not for me. Like, I'm just positive. How can I be better?
Right. When
bad things happen, what can I do to improve it? And I think that's actually been huge for me in being able to grow as a person, as an individual, and being able to grow Sayan to where it is now.
Right. Was this positive attitude always there? Was it always since you were a little kid? You always had that kind of spark in you.
I have, dude. I don't know where or why, but I do. I reflect sometimes, and I go back into, man, is I've always kind of been intrigued in how successful people become successful.
Right.
I don't know why. I just have, and yeah, I go back, and for example, I remember as early as I just remember being a happy kid,
right?
Like, a happy kid, right? We didn't have much stuff like that. My parents did a great job in giving us everything that they could, and I never saw scarcity. I never, even though we were probably experiencing it, but I was always a happy kid. We always had enough, and did we made with what we had.
Right.
And then I go back to when I kind of started realizing, okay, like maybe, I don't know, it stood out for me, and it made an imprint when I was in middle school, growing up playing sports, which sports played a huge role in kind of shaping me and shaping my character and who I am today.
Right.
I remember middle school, I was playing football, right? Never played football in my life, and but I've always been like athletic.
Yeah.
And I remember one game the coach put me in as cornerback. And first play goes in, and I do good. I get a tackle, right? Second play, second down, they throw the ball to my receiver, ball goes flying over his head, and I just tackled it. right? So we get a
flag.
rough pass interference.
Oh, yeah.
We get a flag.
On yourself.
And man, and I got up and I was so like, yeah, heck yeah, I got another tackle, and they like pull me off the field, and the coach is yelling at me. I'm like, crap. And you know, it felt like it was devastating for me that point. Like, oh, I let my team down.
Right.
And you know, he's yelling at me, and I'm sitting there crying, like, oh man, I messed up. But something in me, unconsciously, like subconsciously, said, you know what, this isn't gonna happen again. Like, I'm going to be better.
Right.
I don't know why, it just did. And yeah, I mean, I didn't cower, I didn't, you know, quit. I came back and I got better. And that left such an imprint in my mind. And that's, again, just kind of how I've always been and I am to this day. Yeah.
It's a very interesting memory. It's a very cool, you know, standpoint on what you remember from middle school.
Yeah, I don't know why. It just, but I always
stuck with you.
Back on the it always stuck, and it kind of, you know, yeah, it's kind of like a little blueprint of.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Going from you know, you said you work construction. How many years did you work construction? Do you know? Did you say?
Like between like manual to subcontract?
Yeah, labor to subcontract. So labor on and off. I want to say maybe about 4 or 5 years.
Right.
On and off.
Right. And then that's when you started saying after that point, or
yeah. Well, I was, you know, I did labor
right
for our dad for a few years, and then I got hired as a project manager for a larger renovation company, and I did that, moved up pretty quickly, and you know, I see that as my college years,
right?
Like, you know, real world college experience, right there.
Yeah.
And then in 2012, I left that and went. I was doing subcontracting. So from 2012 to 2014, I was doing subcontracting. You know, getting my own small contracts.
Right, work. Yeah.
Right. So I was getting that experience of having to talk to a client, getting, you know, putting a contract together, all that stuff. And so I want to say 2 years, and then, you know, I started saying, yeah.
So what was the so what I'm really interested in is the day to day, like from you know, being a subcontractor or whatever, you know, doing the labor, doing this, doing that, you know, your day to day, and then starting saying and you know, I mean that had to be a huge mindset shift to be, you know, from employee to employer.
Right.
How did you take that? How was your day by day going? What did you change, you know, mentally or is there anything specific that, you know, you feel like you changed?
Yeah, I did. I think mentally it there was a shift in my overall outlook, and the biggest change that I made was telling myself, okay, you are now responsible for everything. Like anything, every decision that you make, any outcome is your responsibility.
It's on you. Yeah.
Right. And I think that was the biggest change. I mean, you know, now I at that point I had 0 employees. You know, I just had to work with our subcontractors. Right. But ultimately everything came back to me. So, you know, I had to be ready for that. Good or bad, I was going to have to deal with it. So, you know, and I've never shied away from responsibility, ever. I've always been in, like, management positions. Right. So that was really it, understanding that now all the responsibility was going to fall back on me, and now I was going to have more people depending on me to make the right decisions. So as far as day-to-day, you know, it was just that. I mean, just making sure, staying on top of my you know, projects, staying on top of contracts, staying on top of timelines and
right.
deadlines,
right.
and, you know, making sure that all our, like, my books were in order.
Right.
Because at that point I still had time to, you know, kind of go through them on a daily basis and all that stuff. So now it's, you know, CPAs and all that stuff, but yeah.
And starting that, did you feel pretty alone in the fact that, you know, did you have other people you could talk to, like fellow business owners, maybe friends that you were talking to, like, hey, I'm having this issues, like, what do you think? Were you able to confide in other people to kind of help you with your issues, or was it just personal? Like, I got to figure this out.
Yeah. So at that point, that's a great question, and I think it's an awesome subject to touch on. You know, starting out, I had nobody. I really had no one other than books, right? Certain books that I would read, and, you know, if I had a question like, hey, how to type a professional email, like how to reach out to, how to cold call. No, seriously, I mean,
100%.
you know, I didn't know how to do that, and I would get on Google, search books, right? And I ran across some awesome books that teach you how to, you know, formally write an email, like how to, you know, cold email, cold call, all that stuff. So I was reading those, and I did, you know, I see the value of, you know, learning or even hiring people that have been in your shoes and are now, you know, at the top of their industry, or are successful business owners or coaches or whatever. So I sought that out. I think there for, you know, about a year or so, I did have a business coach mentor, until I just, you know, could kind of go on my own. But there's definitely value in that. And no, I at that point, I didn't have anyone that I could confide in, you know, truly, and kind of say, hey, no, Ruben, you know, you want to do this, and this isn't right. Why don't you take this approach? You know, have some guidance. So basically all of it was self-learning and self-reflection, and, you know, having some dark moments, and, you know, having those inner battles of, man, is this really worth it? Like, will I get through it? Yes, you will get through it, but you have to stick to it. Yeah. And you have to constantly keep evolving and learning, consistency, you know, discipline. So no, and it wasn't until, you know, maybe I want to say 2015, a year after I started Sayan, where I started, you know, developing some relationships with, believe it or not, like a couple online groups who were going through the same thing. Like, hey, new business owners, you know, we're going through this. You know, we're going through, you know, we don't know how to get those first clients or retain those clients, or, you know, how do we make those calls? And it's super helpful, and people don't realize as business owners that, you know, when you're going through it, you feel like you're the only one that's going through it. Like, you feel that, you know, you almost don't even want to talk about it or bring it up to anybody, because you think they're gonna look at you like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Like, we're over here making money, business is good, like there's nothing wrong. But no, the more that, you know, I would talk to certain people, be like, we'd look at each other and be like, yeah, well, like, why didn't we talk sooner? Like, we're going through the exact same thing. Yeah. Like, you mean I'm not the only one? Yeah. So, no, I mean, it's beautiful, and I think it's super healthy to have relationships like that, you know, and be open. Be open, exactly. Be open enough to say, hey, what do you think? This is what I'm going through. Because there's people that have gone through it. There's people that have, you know, are going through it. And most of the time, they're willing to help you out, and give you a few pointers. Yeah. Right.
And the reason I asked that question, and for our listeners too, like, if you're at a point where you want to start a business, like, you have this idea, you have this dream of being bigger, I feel like you have to surround yourself with like-minded individuals that are going to push you to do that. Because a big thing that I see nowadays are people are very quick to be like, oh, you know, he switched up. You know, he started making money and now he doesn't talk to us. Right. And people are like, don't comprehend that person that maybe you used to hang out with, like, does not exist anymore. They could not exist. And, you know, they could still not be who they were and become who they want to be. Right. Like, they have to mentally change. Like, you cannot be the same person you were 10 years ago. And
exactly. And I think, and to that point, dude, you know, I think people are, just in general, right? People are afraid of change. People don't take change very well. especially when you change as a person, right? You're still at the core, you're still the same individual, right? You know, if if you've always been a nice guy, you know, whatever. Anthony or Jason, you know, at the core are still the same individuals. But when you are trying to achieve a level of, you know, success or move up in this world, right? There are certain things that you have to do. Uncomfortable things, right? You know, and that may mean at a young age that you have to sacrifice going out partying with your other friends, right? And sometimes that's not received very well at a young age, right? Because, you know, I think the idea is that you're young, you're free, you're allowed to party.
Live your life,
like this
you know,
these are the years to party,
right.
Stuff like that. But it's kind of, in my opinion, it's, you know, it's not the right approach. Now, that's just my opinion, and that's, you know, the way I kind of did things. But, you know, yeah, sometimes change from your friends and stuff like that isn't going to be received well. Yeah.
And I know I say that because I see that with you. I know Jason has his own little, you know, subcontracting business. He's doing subcontracting work, and you're making good money for your age and starting, you know, out from just you doing it with your buddy. And I feel like people see that and they see you and how y'all were together at one point, and now you're advancing,
right?
And they don't have the confidence in themselves to like take that leap and advance. So that's what they tend to. Oh, he switched up. Oh,
you can imagine how many people, you know, text me or like, oh man, like, you know, what do you like? How did you do that? You know, just, and they always talk about they wanted to start whatever their own thing, and I'm like, dude, yeah, just let's talk about it. Okay, man, I'll call you. Give them my number.
And they never call.
I'm like, man,
and you'll get a lot of that. You know, again, because it goes back to, you know, not having not being committed, not having the discipline,
100%.
And, you know, quitting too soon, or quitting at the first sign of something getting tough.
That's the thing that's helped me the most, consistency. And man, I've had so many dry moments in the business where I'm like, man, like why am I even doing this? You know, I could just go work for someone and make, you know, just a little bit less, but you know, I still have a consistent, you know, income. And, you know, I'm like, man, this is just a test. You know, I got to make sure I stay consistent. I got to keep my head up. I just got to push forward.
Right.
And, you know, it always works out. You know, I always get bigger jobs the following week, the following month, whatever. And, you know, I stay consistent. I make more contacts. I meet new people. And consistency is the key. It really is. Yep.
And what did you do to separate yourself from, like, just being a small contractor? Like, and I say this because, you know, for you.
No, 100%.
You want to separate yourself and grow bigger. And I feel like a lot of our audience, and, you know, we live in Texas, so there's a lot of small contracting businesses.
Right.
So what did you do to separate yourself? Like, no, I'm not just going to be like, you know, just mouth to mouth. I'm going to actually get other customers and growing your business.
Well, you know, to begin with, again, it goes back to believing that you can be big, right? As again, as cliche as that sounds, but you have to first truly believe that you can be a big contractor, a big business owner. I mean, if you don't, then you're gonna half-ass pretty much everything.
Or you get a big opportunity and you're not confident to take it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, confidence-wise, because you will be presented with those opportunities, and you have to make sure that, you know, if you don't believe it, the person sitting across the table is not gonna believe it. So you have to, you know, buy into it. And then, you know, again, once you land that big project or your first large contract, right, you know, knocking it out of the park,
right,
and staying, again, going back to consistency. I think, you know, word of mouth will get you to a certain point, and then from there you have to start looking into advertising, you know, networking, you know, expanding that network. And that goes a long way. So yeah, I mean, I think that's been one of the main things that has allowed us to kind of separate ourselves. Is, you know, also I think one of the biggest things is the networking aspect of people who are involved in the industry that you're going after. You know, and again, believing and understanding that you can be in a room with those people.
And going through this phase, because you know, I feel like it's really difficult for people like us, you know, with you know, immigrant parents or whatever, and you know, they're really you know, they don't really know too much about the culture over here or whatever, and all that good stuff. And so like I feel like, or just I was gonna ask, how did you, like, so learning through to this business, like learning about this business and everything, was it just all books? It was all just books. So it was all just you.
It wasn't all. To a certain extent, it was all books. But again, I grew up in the industry, so I had an idea of how things work.
Right.
A lot of the back office stuff, a lot of the actual like business administration.
Yeah, that's the
like that.
Yeah.
That is, you know, I had to learn, through books,
Just
through
self-taught,
through hiring a CPA, through, you know, online videos and stuff like that.
Right.
And then just, you know, the experience itself, like going through it, it will teach you sometimes hard lessons, but it will teach you.
Yeah.
You know, it's up to you if you want to learn those and not make the same mistakes. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, books, videos, seminars, you know, there's groups out there that will put seminars for construction, or whatever industry you're in. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it.
I feel like it's just a big point.
And every day is literally every day you learn something new. I mean, not one day goes by where you're like, man, I didn't learn anything today.
even at your point.
Even yeah. I mean, I'm barely scratching the surface. Yeah. And, you know, we got a long way to go.
It's exciting.
But,
What like, you know, you worked for another large renovations company. When you started saying, what were things that you knew you needed to implement to stand out? Because at the end of the day, I think the difference between success and just being another, you know, fish in the pond is maybe just finding a service or something that you know that you can do tremendously better than the next guy.
People are lacking.
Like that'll just separate you.
Yeah. So, you know, one of the things was just being myself, like being transparent, being honest, and being responsive, and the communication between me and the client. You know, responsiveness has to be there, like especially in this industry. Like, you know, for me, that's huge. You know, I put myself in their shoes, and like, man, I wouldn't want to hear from my, you know, contractor or whoever, you know, 2 days after I've reached out to him, 3 days after I reached out to him. Like that. We try to make it we make it a point here. It's saying like, you know, we get an email or we get a call, we return it back immediately, or we send a text, hey, I'll call you right back, or we respond to that email same day. You know,
that's great.
And I think that's kind of helped us stand out. I mean, it's the little things, right? You know, and other than that, like, you know, our turnaround time, we're able to turn projects around time, you know, without compromising quality, of course, you know, exterior wise, all that stuff. I mean, I think quicker than most. So, yeah, and you know, we're able to travel. We're able to mobilize our groups, and I think that's helped us quite a bit. Yeah, and it's definitely helped us extend our reach beyond Texas. So.
And why multifamily for you? Because, you know, there's residential, commercial. Like, why strictly multifamily? What value did you see in that industry?
So, you know, I grew up in multifamily, so it's kind of, you know, all I knew. But I did try, you know, I bought and flipped a couple homes, and I have tried residential, and it just, same thing, scale. And it was almost more work in the single-family residential than it is in multifamily, and it just didn't make sense for me. Like, you know, for me, it was, man, if I'm going to be spending this much time probably for less money, then I'm going to go big.
All in,
yeah, I'm going to go, like, why not? So that's one of the reasons why. And one, I you know, again, I knew the industry, and it's just, for me, it's more fun. And I enjoy the larger projects. Like there's a lot going on, and for me, like that's exciting.
It's more exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. I like that stuff. Like I like being able to manage. Again, we have project managers on the team now, but I'm still very involved, and I'm still very aware of where all our projects are,
Right.
and I can kind of like tell you right off the top of my mind where we're at any given time
Right.
on each project, and I feel like that keeps me sharp, and that keeps me, motivated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So
I mean, it's a huge deal with all that cool stuff. I mean, it's just, you're at a place where we, like, I don't know if you realize, but you're at a place where we wish, or we want to be.
We will be.
We will be,
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Absolutely. I think for sure you will be. I think anyone can, again, with the discipline and pushing through the tough moments, can get to wherever
Right.
they want to be.
Right.
And it's cool. It's cool to see you guys doing some of this stuff, and asking questions and putting this together. I think that's only just going to kind of catapult you to where you're where you guys are headed. And to your point, now I get calls from certain friends, which is even more motivating for me, right? That are in the industry and call me for certain advice, and I'm like, man, like that's, it kind of feels weird, but it feels, I don't know, it's cool to be able to help others out and give them some advice because, you've gone through it, and you can kind of help them, get around it or talk them through it.
Guys, he's just too humble. Like, people look up to you, dude. Like, you've accomplished a lot, and people, they seek that as we are.
Yeah. Well, no, I appreciate that.
And go into like you're the owner of Sayan, and now you're also owner of real estate.
Mm-hmm.
How was that? Was that just, how did you get to that point? What got you there?
That's always been my goal. My goal was always, hey, okay, if I'm gonna be renovating these multifamily properties, my goal is not to always renovate, right? My goal was to always be, how do I become owner? Like, how do I own?
Like, you want to be able to renovate one of your own
I want to
properties.
renovate one of my own properties. Like, how do I get to that spot, that stage in my life? And the question was, it's always been, oh, I can't do this, or it's too hard. Like, it's how am I going to get there? And then that leads to step 1, step 2, step 3, right?
Right.
So that was always the goal. And I think my first opportunity came in 2017 with a client. And up until that point, like, I had no idea how my clients were buying multifamily. Like, I didn't. In 2017, I attended a seminar that kind of taught you how to buy these properties. And then it's crazy how everything works. Like, I went to that seminar, and then, like, I think a few months after that, one of my clients out of nowhere reached out. He's like, hey, we've got this project, we want you to do it. And then would you like to invest with us? I was like, man, that kind of took me back. I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, and these are, and there's several different ones. But some of these are, higher amounts that you have to put in, right? But that was what I had been saving up for, and finally the opportunity came, and I was prepared. And one of the things too, especially in construction, is you want to make sure that, again, you're not spending your money recklessly. Always, and I always tell our team members here at Sayan, like, hey guys, you want to be at any of your projects, you always want to be 2, 3 steps ahead of your project. Otherwise, things move so fast, literally in a blink of an eye, you can lose sight, you can lose track of a project. Same thing with, the financial side of construction. Like, you want to make sure that you're on top of it, and you're planning. You're planning for the future, and you're planning ahead. So the opportunity presented itself, and I invested in my first, small little deal in Irving, Texas, which we sold this year, and made an awesome return on it. And then from there, it just kind of it snowballed. Yeah. I mean, after that, I got hooked up and networking again, with a great group, a couple great groups actually. And, again, did more investments in multifamily. I think I'm right under 1,000 units as an investor. And then I'm over 600 as a general partner owner.
That's amazing.
Of a couple properties in Houston.
That just makes me think of Hayden, who we had on last week. He mentioned that it's kind of scary how you get driven to a path, or you have a goal and you put your all into that goal, and how the stars kind of align for you.
Yeah.
And you look back and you're like, what the heck?
Right.
How'd I get there?
And and Hayden and I have had multiple conversations about that. And it's so awesome how it's almost like the universe, right? Like, realizes, okay, you kind of got the message. Like, here's now you're on the path. Yeah. And there's obstacles and stuff like that, but you have that goal, and you're driven towards it. That those obstacles, they don't even phase you.
Right. Just to keep you sharp.
Yeah, and you just see them as learning opportunities and growing opportunities, and that's all they are.
And, that's why I think that's just like the biggest thing for me, is just like being open to change and having a positive outlook on everything.
Yeah.
Because maybe right now, like, you're at a point where you don't like what you're doing, but at least like be open and be positive to trying new things, because eventually, like, the thing, it will come to you.
100%.
And just sticking to it and being open to these things.
Positivity.
Yeah.
I think anyone and everyone can succeed in this world, but people are sometimes too, like, closed-minded or something a little uncomfortable, and they just shut down.
Right.
That's like the worst thing you can do, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people, unfortunately, we get comfortable. And then the days go by, and then months go by, and then years go by, and by the time you know it, your life's gone.
Gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone. I mean, your golden years or whatever, and again, it's never too late to start, right? But you just kind of, you settle in. And then, to me, that's the last thing that I want to do. Yeah.
Just get comfortable.
Yeah. I mean, you always, I always want to be on that have that growth mindset.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
And something that he's always told me, a term that always sticks out to me, is like generational wealth.
Right.
Like, doing the most that you can now, taking full advantage of every single opportunity you have now to make sure, like, your kids are set, their kids, like, just generational wealth, and truly creating wealth. 'Cause there's always, I think we all agree, there's a difference between rich and being wealthy.
Right.
Because anyone can come into a large sum of money at one time, but don't know what to do with it. They just spend it, or, they save it. But making your money work for you to make more money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, and to me, that the way I will achieve that is through real estate. I think it's a great place to be in, whether you're in, if you want to do a single family portfolio, whatever. For me, it's multifamily. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's, about generational wealth and creating that path. So, one of the big things that it took me a while to get used to. And if you can get used to it as soon as possible, if you can implement that, is, again, at a young age, you see, and I lived it, and because I went through it, I at a young age, I was also making a decent amount of money. And, I did the whole thing where you go party and, you spend all your money on a weekend and you buy all this fancy clothes and, at the end of the day, for what? Right? So, I think a huge learning experience for me was the moment where I took that money and I didn't spend it on fancy clothes, on all this other stuff, but I put that money to work on my investments. And, that money's working 24/7.
Right. And that was through what? Well, what kind of investments were you doing?
Again, real estate.
Right.
Yeah. And, so now, anything that I get that I can invest, I invest.
Throw it.
You may not see it in your account, but you know that money's working and it's generating you more money.
That's great.
And at the end of the day, you're gonna get that back, and then some.
And then some. Yeah. That's a great mindset to have. That's a great rule to follow.
That's what it is.
So,
and do you have any other like business ventures that you would want to do? Like, do you see yourself owning Sayan for the rest of your life? Do you see like yourself selling Sayan? What's your long-term goal now?
Long-term, I'll be involved in Sayan for, a few more years. Definitely involved. And then I will definitely stay involved in, the multifamily space, whether it's just focusing on, the acquisitions, consulting. One of my long-term goals is, again, how can I help immigrant children, Hispanic kids or whoever, and not just that, but how can I help, be a resource for them? Yeah. And that's big for me. Like that's a big motivator and drive in my life is, I was blessed enough to experience everything that I've gone through. And again, if it can help one person, that'll be great.
I mean, that's the exact same reason why we're doing this. Like, there's so many lost people out there. If this can reach that one person that needs to hear this, like, that's enough for me. That's 100%. All I need to continue doing this.
Right.
They just need to get that realization, that it's possible. Yep. That's it. So going back to your younger self,
mm-hmm.
what's one thing I think you would want to tell yourself, 18, 19, something that you would want to, if you could tell them now. Yeah. What's one thing that you're just like, man, that would have saved me so much time and effort if I knew that? What's a big thing for you?
Get comfortable networking.
Yeah. It's a big thing.
Invest your money. Don't the partying, the like I mentioned, the buying, wanting to impress everybody.
Yeah. The Gucci slides.
And not saying that you can't, right? Like, sure, have nice things. But invest. I mean, the earlier you can get comfortable taking, the large amount of money, whatever that may be. We'll just say if you have $10,000, find a way to invest that somewhere. Put that money to work instead of giving it to somebody else.
And guys, like, let's say you don't have that money, like, that doesn't mean you still can't invest it. Like, let's say you have $50 saved up, either you can do two things with that. Yes, like, you can keep saving it to get to a point where you can invest it, or invest it in yourself.
Right.
Like, buy a book that you can read.
That's invaluable. I mean, there's no, it's so crazy. We'd rather spend $50 on beer, or, going out to eat. Yeah. But we see a book that's $30 and we think that's too expensive. Crazy, when that $30 investment can generate you, like,
change your life.
It can literally change your life. It's crazy sometimes. And again, it just goes back to having that mind shift and understanding that, delayed. Yeah, it's delayed gratification, and I don't think we as humans and the way society is now, it's pushing away from that. We want that gratification immediately, right? And I think you've kind of now, or both of you guys now, kind of know what that is through fitness, right? And working out. You bust your ass in the gym. You understand that you got to eat a certain way, and you're not going to see results immediately. Like that pushes people away. And that's with everything. Yeah. Sometimes you don't get to celebrate immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you, because obviously you're a fit guy, right? Do you attribute, like, fitness also to, do you see correlation between, like, fitness and business as well, like being physically fit?
Yep, absolutely. I think, everything plays off of each other. For me, it's, I've like I mentioned earlier, I've always been into sports. I grew up playing soccer. And then when I stopped playing soccer, I got into working out. and it's always been something huge for me. It keeps me feeling great. It keeps me motivated. It keeps me healthy. And it makes me confident. And I think, and this may just be something that I tell myself, but I feel that, if I'm doing business with somebody, when you meet somebody, first impressions are everything.
Everything.
So if they can see that, hey, this guy looks like he takes care of himself,
Right.
looks like he's disciplined, right? So that already kind of gives you a leg up there.
Yeah. Give you a sense of trust.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They understand that you can hold up to responsibilities. They can.
Yep.
That's great.
For sure.
And you living through, I've always wanted to ask you, it's like you living through, you have so many years of experience, that we want to get generational wealth through real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever looked into other forms of investing that's newer now, like, cryptocurrencies or
Yeah. No, I mean, for sure, right? I mean, you always want to look out there and kind of, grow your portfolio. So yeah, I mean, we hear about crypto and all that stuff, and yeah, I've got a few. I'm involved in a little bit of crypto, nothing crazy, but yeah, I think there's something to gain from everything. You just want to be careful, and you want to make sure that you do your research, and you talk to, again, like, the qualified people.
All right.
You don't just want to kind of dive into it blindfolded and put all your eggs in one basket.
It's a very chance game.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you're just gambling.
Yeah.
Because my thoughts on, I know it's big in our generation now. Like, all I see on social media
NFTs,
is crypto.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is just my advice. Take it how you want it. But I think it's great. There are a lot of opportunities in it. But at the end of the day, like, think about what will always be here. People will always need a roof over their head.
Right.
People will always need food on the table. People will always need a way to get around. Just be thoughtful about your investments. Because I've seen people like, oh, dude, I just threw in like $2,000 into this new coin. And I'm just like, ooh, like, man, it's a little scary, but
yeah, I mean,
take the risk that you want it.
Yeah, and I'm all about taking risks, right? But you also want to, I don't know, understand, right, before you
what you're
you
doing.
do something like that.
be able to mitigate your risk.
Right.
Don't just blindly go into it. You got to understand what you're doing. Yeah.
Yep.
And something I want to touch on real quick between like our relationship, like I touched on earlier, you've always been one to, kind of guide me, give me, certain, try to help me out as much as you can. But just because he's my brother, like, it's not what you think. Like, he doesn't just come to me and he's like, hey, you need to do this. You need to do this. Like, I've always been the one to seek it. And also I've sat him down and been like, hey, you're my older brother, but I want you to mentor me. Like, I want you to be able to, mentor me in business and whatever.
Right.
And just taking that action and not just expecting him to, help me, like handouts. Like, I've been able to seek that from him.
Right. That's great. I mean, I think it's the biggest thing with I don't know, relationships like that. Cause I mean, you on the outside, you're like, oh man, like, he's so lucky to have a brother like that. He just, his guy has it handed down. And then you really think about it. I mean, I'm sure you're not going to take, a whole bunch of steps back to help him get to where he needs to be.
Right. No, ultimately the decision is on, Anthony, right?
Yeah, that's what it is.
And one, I hope that everyone can find or has someone that can help guide them,
right,
or mentor them, give them advice, right? But no, it's not a hand-me-down. Again, it's not about just because, I know somebody or I'm related to somebody who's doing a certain thing,
right?
I've got it made.
Right.
Ultimately, it's the individual and what they want to accomplish,
right?
And what they want to do with it. It's touching back on. I listened to Hayden's y'all's first episode, which was great, by the way.
Thank you.
You mentioned about asking, I'll work for you for free, right? And it's more than that. It's adding true value. It's because a lot of people, a lot of guys who are running companies, businesses, the days are, every hour counts. Like you're doing something every hour, 24/7. So a lot of times, it's, thinking, man, well, even though someone's offering me their services for free, the time that it's going to take is,
Right.
it just,
Right.
Not worth
it
it.
doesn't add up.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think it's great that
But again, if you are looking for something like that, take the initiative. Find how can you add value? How can you make, someone's time, how can you save them time? How can you improve someone's, I don't know, system, service, something, right? And show them that you can add value and you can improve the team,
Right.
or a certain aspect
help
of their
them
life.
out
Yeah.
genuinely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's great, because I think, people see, and I'm using you for example, like you reach this level of success and people are just like, oh, he has everything, he has it made. But at the end of the day, like if someone was to take all that away from you, like you could build that back up.
Absolutely.
100%.
I think that's something huge too. And that comes with, experience. And this kind of takes me back to, in between, I think I was like 19, 20. I worked at Olive Garden as a server,
Right.
as a server.
Nice.
And it actually, that taught me such a valuable lesson in service, right? And I think I've told you this story before, where I implement that to this day, and will continue to implement that. I think that what that taught me was that service. I mean, no matter, great service means everything to people. A lot of my colleague, other servers would focus on, trying to upsell a dish or stuff like that, right? And I was never like that. My main focus when someone sat at my table was what can I do to provide you the best service and experience in the restaurant while I'm serving your table. And man, it was crazy. Like that's what I would focus on. And it was crazy how almost every night I would walk out there with the most tips. And that was it. And I would get, people would request me and all that stuff. And that was my main focus is how am I going to give you the best service possible? Right. That's it. And people will notice that. And sometimes people won't. And that never stopped me from providing great service.
Right. And when
it wasn't the money.
Right.
So, and I think that I've carried that throughout my entire life up until this point, and will continue to do so.
Of course.
Is ultimately that's, in my opinion, what matters. Yeah.
And do you think that's what can cause a lot of like businesses or people who fails? They just solely focus on the money. Like that's all. Obviously, like, now you have to. Obviously, it's a very important aspect of business, right? You need money to continue to grow, right? To grow your business, to pay your employees, all that stuff. It's super important. But I do think that there it can happen, and there comes a point where service gets diluted, and that is what really hurts a business. So, it's how you can continue that great service and still grow, manage it. I think that's actually one of the things that Sayan is going through right now. We've experienced this rapid growth, and although we're still delivering great service and all that stuff, one of my jobs is to figure out a way to continue that through the growth. And it's crazy because did COVID in the construction industry, did you see COVID, like, did that hurt your business?
No, it didn't. We didn't see a slowdown. Obviously material prices rose. But, we have great clients, and they completely understood. And we just adapted, and everybody did, as we're still having to. Yeah. But no, it didn't slow us down. If anything, we were as busy as ever through COVID, still are. And, again, just it's like everything, it's probably here to stay, and we're just going to have to adapt and then figure out a way to live with it. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And what is like, you don't have to go into specifics, but what is Sayan like grossing at this point right now?
So we are, these past 2 years, we're an 8-figure company. So, the growth we've seen has been, it's been, I don't know, like awesome.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And it's just it's a testament, to great service. And, I think it's again, working with great clients and the trust and belief that they have on us.
Right.
And, it's just allowed us to just grow like crazy. And, for next year, we're already like projected to be pretty much, if not where we are right now, but even more. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. Exciting. And again, service, communication, and just, treating clients the way they are supposed to be treated. Right. I mean, not putting up a fake, business persona, literally just being yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
And I want to leave our listeners with this. We've done this before, and I saw how much it helped me and how much it kind of made me realize that anything is possible. So I highly encourage like anyone and everyone to do it. And that is writing down your goals.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
I know you've probably done that.
Yeah,
you did that in the past, and now you're seeing it actually come to fruition.
Yeah, and it sounds crazy, and I've been huge on this since you were a kid. It's write down your goals, write down your goal, and I'm telling you what has worked for me, right? And it may not work for you, or you may want to do it differently, but write down your goals. Write down your goals like they've already become a reality, and be very clear and specific. I mean, literally to the shirt you're wearing, the car you're driving, the money that's in your account, right? Like, and write it down and believe it, and repeat it to yourself. And it's crazy, and it's again, it's just what's worked for me. Writing them down, believing in them, and working. Like, don't leave that portion out. Like, it's not just because you wrote it down and you told yourself 3 times that it's going to happen and all that stuff doesn't mean it's going to happen. Like, you have to put in the work. Right. You can't miss that ingredient. And I'm sitting here a firm believer because I've experienced it, that it does happen.
You just let that seed grow.
Yeah, I mean, you plant those seeds, water them, with work and writing them down and all that stuff, and man, it happens.
Yeah, that's awesome. So motivational, for real. That's amazing.
So no, that's great. And again, guys, like this is super exciting. I'm glad you guys are doing this. What is, I don't know, what is something that you guys are going through right now? You mentioned you have a subcontracting company. I mean,
right. Yeah. I started that junior year when COVID hit, actually.
Yeah.
Didn't have school or anything, so I didn't want to work at Whataburger, McDonald's, or anything. I was just kind of tired of doing that, and I've always wanted to do something, to start young. I knew I just wanted to start young.
Right.
So I was like, man, it's I talked to my buddy. His name is Bruno Ackerson, and we talked and we started out just mowing lawns like any other teenager, in high school, trying to make some extra cash, and then that grew just because of our customer service. We had we were really good at talking at a young age, and we understood people and we could relate to them, and so we got to a point where we would talk to customers and they get super comfortable with us, and recommendations and all that good stuff, and then we grew into a general contracting business when we met a lot of great contractors in Rockwall, Texas, and luckily we hit it off with them, and so we got really close, and they would help us out starting out. They wouldn't with pay or like pricing jobs, it's very difficult starting out, especially at a young age, and lacking in a lot of that experience, but they helped us out a lot. They would tell us, oh, this is how we do it. This is how you can do it. This is what you should do in this point right now. And so, we listened to them, and we kind of just grew from there, and now we're a little bit over a year in business now, and everything's going great. You have your slow days, but we just keep our head up and just keep it going. That's it. But yeah, that's kind of how I started that.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I'm out of I guess.
And I wanted to prove myself. I've always been super. I don't know if it's competitive, but I've always wanted to be.
There's business competition.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to show myself. I was competing with myself. I wanted to show myself. Like, my sister did some great things. My brother did great things. My dad he did amazing things. My mother did amazing things, and I wanted to show them that I could do better things.
Right.
But for them, I wanted to do it for them. It's all just for, just to give back to my parents, because they took so much risk getting here.
Right.
And so I didn't want to do the whole school thing, because I just knew it wasn't for me, and I knew it wasn't gonna give me the outcome that I wanted.
Yeah.
And so, man, I was like, I'm just gonna put my head down and work a little bit while I'm young, experience a lot, and that's the whole reason why I love this podcast, because now, gaining experience takes time, but if you talk to the right people, that experience time cuts down a lot.
Right.
So now I know, what did you do to do that? Okay, great. Now I know that I can do that. That's an option for me that I can do, or I can try something else. If it doesn't work, I go back to that.
Right.
It's a roller coaster, and it's fun. I'm just trying to enjoy it, and just trying to give back everything I can to my parents. That's it.
Nice.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think this is the reason why, why I wanted to do this podcast, and we've talked about it. I think me and Jason came to the conclusion. Me and Jason have always kind of gravitated towards each other. Mm-hmm. I think that just comes with our mindsets. We had similar mindsets. Right. We believe the same things. So, in high school, we always gravitated towards each other. And after high school, we would still catch up here and there, and we would talk about things that were going on. And I brought the idea up to him one day. I was like, dude, we're having these conversations every time we hang out, right? We have all these dreams, these goals, these aspirations. We know what we have to do, and we want to get in front of these people that are doing these things. We want to learn from them, and we already do talk to them. You were talking to your contractors. So what do we have to do? And I was like, well, maybe we can, start a podcast and have these people on. People love to talk about themselves. Right. And 9 times out of 10, no one's going to say no to being on a podcast. People love to talk. Right. And I think we're both, we both care about people a lot, and 100%. Bringing this to an audience that, like we said, doesn't have these mentors. Right. I was blessed to have you. I know, we have each other. Right. Not everyone has that. Right. And just nurturing that and helping that one person that truly, truly needs it is what it's all about.
It's the biggest deal. Yeah. Just making sure, just like how I said, just making sure they recognize, because I feel like a lot of Hispanic people, they're really hard workers, and they understand. I mean, this goes for everybody, but just in my opinion, for Hispanic people in specific, they work hard, man. They work hard, and they work for something. And I just want them to realize they can do so much more than just work.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's one of my, future goals is not only, absolutely. The culture works tremendously hard. Yeah. Right. And we sacrifice so much, having to come over here for whatever reason. Working so hard for such a long time, when a little bit of education, knowledge, right? Yeah. A little bit of knowledge. Hey, how can I improve my credit score? Yeah. That stuff, those are things that I, wasn't really taught. Yeah. It wasn't taught in school. Coming from immigrant parents, they didn't really know the system, so not very aware of it. Yeah. But understanding that, hey, there's a credit score, and it helps you out a lot. Yeah. Right? If you have the right score, and there's ways to improve it, there's ways to make that better. Financial education, a little bit of business education, and there's no doubt in my mind that a lot of these guys that I know that we know that we work with, stuff like that, would be in a way better spot if they had a little bit of knowledge, and that's my goal. And helping that other generation of kids, Hispanic kids, whatever, understand that. Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. I think So we talked about, man, we talked about this a long time ago, but it's just, you know, we want to make sure these kids know that, I mean, dude, it's possible. It's not just work, because that's all they know. You know, growing up, it's all they know. Their dad takes them to work 5 a.m., you know. They go, and then they work all day, and then that's it. And then they, you know, the parents just send them off to college. Like, I mean, you know, it's good. You know, go to college if you want to, if that's your thing. But, man, there's so much more you can be doing with that, with that effort you put in. Like, you know, there's so much more, I promise.
Yeah.
And let us know, like, we want to hear your guys' feedback. If we were to do something where we, like, you know, meet maybe a little networking event where the, you know, younger people, we can meet, 100%. Just chop it up and just talk. You know, maybe you have some business idea that you want to run by somebody. Like, we're all open ears. You know, we have all our socials links, anything. You know, if you have anything, we are open. We're an open book. We'll talk to anybody. We want to talk to people.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that'd be, you know, again, huge. I think a big part of, you know, growing, not just in general, well, not just in business, but in general, is expanding that network. You know, reach out, talk to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's how it goes.
Dude. Well, dude, thank you so much for having this. I think, you know, that was a great episode.
It was.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me on. Again, it's an honor to be here. Love that you guys are doing this. You know, hope the listeners enjoy this. And again, I mean, you know, if there's anything that I can say or have a little input on is, you know, stay disciplined.
Yeah.
Push through the tough times, especially when you're starting out. You know, write down your goals.
100%.
And 1,000% believe in yourself. Yeah.
That's it.
So.
And before we end this episode off and do our dollar signing, what's one book? Cool. What's one book that you recommend, or what's like your one book that completely, that off the top of your head, like changed your life?
So Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki was probably the first book that really helped me understand like that there's a different way to do things.
It was a great book.
Yeah. So I'd say that one.
Okay.
And then close second is it had a huge impact on me and changing my mindset in how I view life in general was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Yeah. And then a ton of other books, but yeah.
We'll get those in the link and everything.
Yeah, check those out. We'll Amazon link them in the description.
Cool.
So, yeah, man.
Awesome. So sign anywhere.
Sign
wherever
you want.
Big, your name big.
Sweet.
Cool.
Nice.
There you go. Second dollar bill. So, all right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, listening. Please give it a like, comment, share, and give us your feedback. Anything, if there's a specific someone that you know, maybe in the Dallas area that you would want to hear, that you know would be of a lot of value, let us know. I mean, we're all open. So thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Have a good day.
Peace.
Thanks, guys.